Um, all right, got it. Good morning, folks. Virtual conferences are a blast. I really wish I could see faces and names, but I have chosen to do a little bit of a different thing on the one screen that I have, so I won't be able to see you. I have some help here today, so Astrid will be helping me with the slides today. And if you do have questions in the chat, I believe I'll be able to see those. My plan would be to stop briefly after we have a few video inserts into the slides today so that we can have a possible discussion somewhere in the middle. But that doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you in the meantime. So chat your questions. If you have stories to share today, I feel like we learn best from each other. So I welcome those stories as well. So with that, I'm Jody Greniger. I'm joining you today from Duluth, Minnesota. We've had a difference of about 80 degrees in temperatures in the last 2 weeks. And today, I think we're sitting at a freezing 8 degrees and it's pretty icy. The lake's gorgeous and the sun is out. I'm sitting in the adult education office at Lake Superior College. So we are co-located with our programming and we do have an office space. If you'd like to share where you're joining from in the chat, I think everyone would be able to see that and maybe be able to have a little bit more context from where we're all coming from today. So if you feel like doing that at this time, please just chat in where you're joining us from today. Okay, I started my mission here in adult education in 1996 in the town of Hutchinson, Minnesota. It was a very fresh start from an elementary education perspective and absolutely just was hooked and never went back to using my elementary education licensure. We started the co-location here at Lake Superior College in 2012. That was a little while ago as well. And we're going to hear some of that progressive dinner that's happened since 2012 in some of the slides today. This is a kind of a patchwork quilt presentation today. My partners were unable to join with us virtually, so you will hear from my manager, Angie. She's got a video to kind of greet all you folks today, and I think she might actually be present for part of this morning. You'll also hear from Carrie Stimson. Carrie Stimson used to be Carrie Rakes, so it's not new faculty here at LSC. She was blessed in marriage and has a new name. She'll be joining somewhere around slide probably 20 and giving her perspectives of our partnership. Carrie and I began this partnership together, and we actually, as you hear her speak here in a little while, we'll see that we've known each other for quite some time. I do need to say a special thanks to tech support. Like I said, I am a face-to-face person, a people person, and this is a little clunky for me, so I'll do my best. Lake Superior College, let's just talk about the landscape here before we start with the PowerPoint. We do have a sizable dev ed population. We are integrated into some of the 0950, 0955 courses, which is developmental education at its best. We also provide standalone adult education courses, pathways into the developmental education classes here on campus. Let's see. Today we're going to be talking about a couple vocabulary words that you might want to just bring to mind. Some conferences that we've been to, NROC, NOS, MNAID, and well, NOS used to be NAID. So we've been presenting at multiple conferences and have shared our partnerships across the states. Actually, Sarah, who you see here in the picture in the middle, is Sarah Boostrom, now Sarah Filmony Boostrom. So if you look her up online, and you'll see her contact at the end of these slides. She's math faculty at Lake Superior College. Her and I have also worked together since the beginning of our partnership, probably not 2012, maybe 2014, but she was on campus at that time. She'll be presenting at the NOS conference in Nashville. That's happening in March. So we're still reaching out and sharing some of the things that we do here. Again, interactive sessions are hard to have. So I'm hoping that if somebody chats something that I need to pause, that I'll have some support there. And I am mindful that there are many aspects of our programming, and each of our partnerships and each of our campuses and each of our sites are very different from each other. We all have our barriers and our bonuses, and I hope to share some of those with you today. It reminds me of something that happened last week just in my life, and it kind of stuck with me, so I wanted to share it. My dad was brought down to Duluth by ambulance, and unexpected, obviously, and he's a self-advocate and he's taught me that as well. And he was talking to a surgeon about what he wanted to see happen when he went into surgery. And the surgeon very respectfully listened, made some suggestions, and my dad came back with pointed studies of why he felt how the surgery should go and what should get done. And the surgeon looked over to me and he said, "You're a teacher, right?" I said, "Yeah." And he looked at my dad and he said, "You've had multiple professions in your life, so you probably really have a respect for what I'm about to say." And he said, "The textbook didn't read the problem today." And Dad and I looked at each other and we're like, huh, yeah. So sometimes our best textbook ideas and things on paper are really hard to put to the pavement and develop. Well, that was a long introduction. I hope you're all still with me. I'm gonna go ahead and start with these slides. Some of them are applicable today. Some of them I just wanted to have present, and you can do your research after the fact. This was an NROC project that we did, as you can see on the bottom of the slide, April 2022. So Sarah's still much a partner in our situation here. And on the other side of the screen there is Terry, and she has retired. So I'm not quite sure where our connections are with NROC. We've been reaching out and having conversations, but Terry's not with us any longer, so she'll be missed. Okay, Astrid, I think that was great for that first slide. And Angie, I can't see if you're here, but we're going to hear from Angie Frank. She is our manager here at ISD 709. And I just have to put a little plug. It's a new day, our marketing stuff. So thanks for our new branding, Angie, and let's hear from you.
Hi there, I'm Angie Frank. I am the manager for Duluth Adult Education, located in beautiful Duluth. Come and visit us sometime. We've got 5 programs here. We have our Basic Skills program, our GED and Diploma program, our English Language Learner program, our Career Path program, and then our College Prep program, which is what we're here to talk with you about today. Our College Prep program takes place through a partnership with Lake Superior College, and about 1/3 of our students participate in this program. Our lead teacher up there, Jody, who you will hear from after this, she participates up there in 2 different ways. First, she teaches college prep programs in math and in reading and writing, and those are an ABE curriculum taught solely by Jody. Those classes are free to students, and they're a great way to make sure that students are ready for college before they take on the massive college debt and college loans. The second way Jody participates up at Lake Superior College is she is integrated into Dev Ed classes. Currently, she's integrated into a math Dev Ed class and a reading writing Dev Ed class. Now, these classes students pay tuition for, and a Lake Superior College instructor teaches those classes, and Jody is present in all of the classes in order to offer support to the students. I think this model is fantastic because it puts student success first, and it prioritizes meeting student needs to make sure that they are successful in college. I'd also like to say I am grateful today to Jody for bringing this presentation to you all. She has been at Lake Superior College for many, many, many years, and really the success of this program is due to her ability to build relationships with college partners, to build community, She's also a fantastic teacher and building relationships with students. And so much gratitude to her, and I am sure she will have wonderful information to share with you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Angie. I appreciate the kind words. My face always gets a little red because I don't do well with recognition sometimes. But being here and having the relationships that I've had, relationships have turned into some great friendships as well. So it's been a great journey. We're going to start the slides, and some of these slides will be applicable, some of them will not. But before we start the slides, I'd just like people to kind of have a mindset of where you're joining from and the programs that you're involved with. As you listen, maybe think about if you're not familiar with the toolkit, which you'll see the slide here a little bit further down the line. There are other programs that I've worked very closely with, and AEOA and Hibbing, shout out to you folks. Brainerd and Central Lakes, shout out to you folks, and Northwest Service, ABE Northland Community and Technical College. And I started in 1996, so if I say the wrong program name, I know there's been changes. I'm trying to study, but the toolkit has other spotlights available for you to take a look at and see what sounds like you, what fits you best. Again, we'll pause for discussion after we hear from Carrie, but we're going to slide through a few of these. I think where we began was meeting the students where they were and coming together as ABE and faculty and having really hard conversations about what are we doing well, what are we offering, what barriers are we creating for learners, not just what barriers are learners coming with. And meeting those students where they are has become even more so today, in my opinion, difficult. We've come through a lot of changes here in the last couple years, and our programming is going through some changes from the state level. So we've got changes coming from both populations. And so we're up for meeting the students where they are still today, but it just looks a little bit differently. Okay, Astrid, what do we have next? When NROC approached us to do the presentation, it was focused on curriculum and program delivery and just talking about how we do some of those pieces, the technical pieces. And as adult education providers, I'm sure you're very familiar with the test word there. And so at the campus here at Lake Superior College, we do use TABE testing for pre and post testing. With that, we did try a test trial run with CASAS, and we're back to TABE. We're finding that some of the new programs that we have, especially in our nursing programs and stuff, TABE isn't measuring what we needed to measure. So this is kind of a conversation of adult education meeting another population, and how do we make those tools that we use work for the tools on a different context. So that's a huge conversation to have. I've been having some sidebars via email with folks that are having that same assessment situation, and I think that's probably something that we can continue to talk about. The next slide is going to kind of talk about EdReady. I don't use EdReady. So this is something that we can kind of be familiar with. I know I don't do GED and some of those prep classes anymore. So if you're using EdReady, you can shout out to me at a later time, and then I'll know who my resources are if and when I do need to use EdReady. So we can kind of pass this slide, and there's the site there at the bottom. I'm not able to see how many folks are in the Minnesota story and where you're from, but this is some information from, you can see 2017. I'm not sure how many of you lived through the movement to accelerate our students' progress. It became more crucial for colleges to communicate with ABE, and we became more of a voice on campuses when this movement came through. I'm aware that there is another slight change potentially coming up the line here, and I don't have the details on that, But the Minnesota story, again, bringing you back to 1996, I was co-located on a campus and I was in a learning center and I was providing ABE services at that time. And to witness the growth of our strength as adult educators with partners on campuses has been a beautiful, beautiful thing. So obviously we're going to make reference here to the DESR. People on our campus call it desires. I don't think that's technical. We have so many acronyms these days that I was actually studying last night. So if I falter and I don't know an acronym, help me out and throw it in the chat. So here's our Minnesota story from this perspective. Okay, Astrid, what do we have next? This is the link. And again, you can see it's from 2018. I just want to make mention that while I'm on the campus of Lake Superior College, I sit on the Developmental Education Committee. I sit on the FYE, First Year Experience Committee. I'm involved with digital literacy and some new computer initiatives here on campus. Again, tying back to the FYE skills and tying great deals with the 0950 population of learners who come in and they're ready to come back to school and their skills are needing some help. And then we put a computer in front of them. And our non-traditional students don't always do that poorly. I'm not finding a population of people that navigate as a whole better. Obviously, our younger populations grew up with cell phones and gadgets and they're pretty familiar, but we should not at that point assume knowledge. And I found that to be just a huge sticking point. We assume knowledge, but that doesn't mean they know how to do a discussion on your platform or download an assignment and submit it. And so that's all conversations that happen with our programming here. So I kind of went on a little bird walk. I'll do that from time to time. There's the link for the DESR, and we can go ahead and skip through that next slide as well. I do have a correction there. I think our documentation today says there's 24 documented sites, and I'm willing to say that there's probably more sites happening that just are still working their relationships. Hi, Kirsten. I don't know if you're here today. We've worked together for quite some time. I'm pretty sure maybe in the 90s, pretty sure. And Russell and Leslie, thank you for having me here today. The toolkit, which again is up and coming, was a fun project. If you get a chance to take a look at it again, all college voices are in there. There's an ABE perspective. It's kind of fun. Steve Gallagher did a really great job of sharing in here. He's on sabbatical, so he wasn't able to join us today either. He's really enjoying that time, so we miss him. So thanks to the folks that we're seeing here that made this project possible. That's what it looks like if you haven't seen it. I don't know if you can see me, probably not. Okay, let's move forward. So again, I had made mention about what are the two systems, and the two systems is Minnesota State and Minnesota Adult Education. And the two systems have typically different calendars, different policies, different assessments, and we have done so much since the year 2000. I was part of the first GEDI, so we were called JEDIs when GED went online. And I just remember always communicating with the two systems and thinking back to the GED perspective. It was like, what's going to happen with their GED when learners now get their GED and they're ready for their next step? And so these partners have been communicating for quite some time. Okay, where are we going next? Here's some stats for you, for your numbers people. And if Sarah, if you did log in today, thanks for joining. Here's some numbers about our campuses and what we look like across the state. MinnesotaABE.org, great site. I give it out often. I don't have it on my tagline, but I probably should. That's a really good idea. We have all new administration here at Lake Superior College. So the folks that I started with have moved forward, and our new relationships have been such a blessing. And there's always that uncertainty. And again, you'll hear mention of relationships. If you are approaching other folks about programming. Know your site, know your selling points, know what we can do. Yeah, we can move forward. Another about consortiums and how we're set up. I think we're almost getting to Carrie. Okay, wait. We talk about iBest and we talk about a couple different partnership models. We have, again, as Angie stated, the models that we use here on campus are integrated and standalone. We have started to do some of the co-rec vocabulary here on campus, but we haven't owned it. So that's kind of what our partnership models look like. Okay. All right, so the questions that we are gonna look at from here forward is the why and the how. And I think we finally get to hear from Carrie. Is this the next one? Not yet. I have paper here, but I'm not flipping through with you. Benefits from our DevEd partnership, you'll hear about the time spent and credit-bearing courses. That's also been quite a conversation here on campus and is continuing to be. Providing students with confidence and the success that they can feel has to do with the connections we made with them. Again, relationships, making sure they're aware of other resources that are on campus. We do have an embedded advisor that comes right into our 0950 classes. Trio support services comes right into our classes. We have new mental health specialists here on campus also coming right into our classes. Those touch points help the wraparound services to create the successful equation for a learner to be retained and kept on campus. Let's see, benefits the campus through student retention and persistence. Absolutely, we're seeing a little bit of dip in enrollment. We can see that our numbers are a little bit down, but we usually see that in spring. So I'm super excited to see fall happen again. Fall, our numbers were climbing, and that's kind of a great feeling when we've gone through a couple years of just some different kind of programming. Okay, yay. Carrie, if you're here today, thank you for joining us. If not, meet Carrie, Lake Superior College reading faculty, also heads our developmental education committee and does way more things than I can probably list. Before we play the video, Astrid, you're seeing a screen here that shows our D2L. And our D2L is our online platform that we use with learners to communicate our courses. What you're also hopefully seeing is some of the partners that we've talked about. So across the screen, you'll see Carrie. Gretchen is the writing instructor for this course, adult ed, and then we do have an advisor, Sherry Gallagher. With this D2L shelf, everybody involved with the course has access to the course. So you can see across the top with the content listed weekly is our assignments. During my lab time, that content is also listed. So if folks miss class, we have communications that way. And I should probably let Carrie describe what you're seeing.
Hi everybody, my name is Carrie Stimson. I'm a reading faculty at Lake Superior College. I teach the developmental reading piece of the Read-Write integrated classes that we offer our students. And I couldn't be with you today to join Jody in the presentation of how our developmental classes work with the support of the Duluth Adult Education. So the next best thing is this video, right? So I'm just going to give some perspective, I guess, from the faculty member on our partnership and provide a little bit of insight into, some of the practical tools of how we work together and to support our students. Okay. So I thought it would be a nice place to start on D2L in the announcements page, because from the very beginning of each semester, we do want to tell our students how we work together as a team. This is, I believe, our 5th year of working together, if I got that right. in this integrated model. So it works where the students will take both reading and writing in one course, which eliminates credits, and if they pass with a C, they can move right into Comp 1. And we offer 2 levels of read-write. The 0950 is for our intermediate level students who need more support, and that's the class that Jody supports. And then we also offer 0955 for the advanced level that it is myself and a writing instructor without the support of the adult educator. So I'll be talking just about the 0950. And this is our welcome message as students come into the class. And as you see, we want to present ourselves as a whole team of people with the reading, the writing instructor, with Jody's information, and we also have a counselor or the advisor who comes in to visit with students in person a few times a semester, so they get to know Sherry here as well. We do get to talk about how the class is set up in terms of logistics. You know, every semester it may change if we're meeting twice a week or 3 times a week. This semester it's 3 times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we decided it would be best for Jody's time with them in the lab to be on Wednesdays, kind of in the middle of the week. And so the writing instructor meets Monday, Fridays, and I'm there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Jody, of course, is there for all the good stuff. And that's really the one thing that I think is just so powerful about this model, is that Jody's position is there to be the constant source of support for students, kind of ties it all together for them, and really just helps keep things running smoothly. When students miss class, Jody will have their assignments for them ready to help catch them up, take notes, and just kind of reduce that stress, that barrier. You know, it doesn't feel good if you miss class to show up and not know what's going on. And so Jody is a welcoming presence in helping them get caught up again. So, as I mentioned from the get-go, we try to present ourselves as a full team and how we work together. And then in content every week, we do always like to list, I'll just kind of go to our first week, what everybody's doing in class each day. And so we'll have a special section on Mondays, what I'm doing in reading, what Gretchen's doing in writing, and then Lab with Jody, what's happening on Wednesday. And so that way there's that continuity as well for our partnership, in that everybody's role is pretty well defined, at least for the students, I think. It takes a little bit of time. I know 3 teachers in a classroom can seem a little overwhelming, especially with our low numbers that we're dealing with lately, right? So that's kind of what we do each week in D2L. And of course our syllabus has the same sort of language. We like to tell our students contact information for everybody at the beginning to make sure that somebody is available to meet with them when they need someone. So that's important to be very straightforward with. I'm also glad to say we were able to create a textbook for free for students. It's an OER, and it's this lovely, let's see if I can get it on the camera, Path to Academic Success. It's a spiral bound, and we do print it and give it to students for free, but we also have it as a digital textbook, and we worked really hard on this. So you'll find the names of myself and Jody and a couple of writing instructors to say how we collaborated when making this book. And it's a digital book, so it's also accessible to our online students as well as the face-to-face. And so that has been a really nice addition to our class as well, to have that feature. Right, and then just, I guess, kind of talking more about the partnership in general. We have found it works really well to have weekly meeting times, usually in person if we can. It's just something about that opportunity to bring up concerns in real time, and to, you know, have a discussion if we think a student needs some additional support or needs some special intervention perhaps, and then it just, yeah, kind of helps the class become unified with all of us. Sometimes, of course, it's hard to find a mutual time for all of us, so we're try to be flexible, and we tend to meet in Jody's office close to the classroom, where we can just as I said, mention every week that we could chat together. Otherwise, email threads are always a huge part of each day. Students are told to email all three of us if they can't make it. So Jody, myself, and the writing instructor in one email so that we can keep good communication. And they really do respond to that pretty well after they get started. So the communication piece is really important, not only between the students and the teachers, but within the teachers themselves, how we're all working out things. And it is a work in process. I'm sure there are things I feel like I could always be doing better to figure out how we can work together better in the classroom. And every time you get a new batch of students, you kind of have to figure out what are their needs and how to work best with them. And it's a work in progress, as I'm sure most people would agree for that. Another benefit that I've noticed is that Jody's really great at finding special events on campus and bringing them to our attention so that we can share them with our students. So we've brought our class down to the Center for Equity and Inclusion to hear a talk a couple days ago about the Duluth lynchings from Carl Crawford, who is here. And those are opportunities that then can connect to our material in a lot of ways and help build our class community by sharing those events. So I appreciate that Jody brings in that perspective of what's happening outside of the classroom with the larger community, with the ties that she has and the places that she's been with for other students. So that's also a super nice benefit. So in general, it's a win-win situation, right? And it's kind of interesting because I started my career in the northern part of Minnesota. I came up from the Twin Cities, where I was a reading specialist in the elementary school level. And I found a job with the Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency, AEOA, and I was an adult ed instructor. I did GED, a parent program, and that's how I first met Jody, was through that work. So I was already firmly on board with adult education and how great they are. So when I moved into the faculty role here about 12 years ago, I found that it was an easy buy-in for me to have support from an adult educator. I'm like, that's a no-brainer. But I know that it's not quite the same in other schools. There's more, suspicion, I think, and a lack of really knowing what does this feel like? Am I losing out if I do this? If I invite somebody from the outside into my classroom, because it can be intimidating if you're not used to having other teachers with you in the room. So I think it also requires some vulnerability in terms of what who you are as a teacher, and just being willing to listen and learn from each other when you make a mistake, growing from it, talking about it, but it's, staying real, because we're all works in progress. So that piece, that emotion, that kind of piece about how you feel about working with other co-teachers directly, I think, having somebody open-minded to that and looking at the positive benefits of it is just really helpful. And if you have that piece, then it puts you ahead of the game, really, instead of having to build the buy-in. So our team has always been really fortunate that we all have that incredible understanding of the opportunities that Jody's position presents for our students and what we can offer them. So yeah, I guess that's about wraps it up in terms of what I really wanted to express to everybody. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this partnership. I hope it continues. I know the future looks a little uncertain with these co-requisite classes that are in discussion now for 2026. I don't know what that means in terms of our developmental classes and these relationships that we now have established. So we'll have to see what happens, but I always hope that we'll be able to find a way to move forward with them and keep this dynamic relationship intact in some form. So that's it, folks. I hope you have a good rest of the conference, and thanks again for having me. Bye.
Jody, you have some questions in the chat. Would you like to take those now or would you like to wait?
Well, I'm pretty mindful of time, if you know me from other experiences. So I've been kind of watching what I could, and I have 4 that I'd like to address.
Okay.
And I think that's important at this time. So one question was the attendance, and I am integrated into all 6 hours of the courses for the 0950. So if that's what that question was in regard, yes, I am there for all 6 hours. I have 1 hour on my own, which might lead to the question about lectures. Yesterday I did stations because everybody was just at a different need point. And so I had stations set up in the classroom for our lab time where people could go to the part that they felt they needed to do. I have done lectures, especially on like reading strategies and vocabulary refreshment and just those kind of things. The weekly time I'd like to make mention of also, if you heard the consistency, I am in the Learning Center. My office is in the Learning Center. I share a wall with the director of the Learning Center. We use our office hour to be in the lab in the Learning Center, and we have our staff meetings in the Learning Center. Folks know where to find us. And so that's another talking point worth mentioning. The student success and retention, Carrie mentioned about pulling folks into other activities that are happening on campus. If your learners see themselves in many contexts, they belong to the campus, they have a family at the campus, and they have connections at the campus. And I just have always felt like that's the relationship word again. Your students need relationships with other folks on campus for that retention piece. What else could I possibly see? Is there some chat that I can someone re-chat if you have any
Did you
questions?
address the question about whether you were compensated for collaboration?
Oh, great question.
And college faculty?
That's a great question and often asked. We had a sabbatical person, and the timing of the OER worked for that person. It was during summer, and we've worked together for many, many years. So we were creative in where we met, and there was compensation for time, probably not all of the time, especially when you start talking about accessibility and editing. And we pulled resources in from campus, especially when it was getting close to print. So yes and no. It probably isn't the best answer you want to hear, but that's the truth of it. Yes and no, we were compensated for time. Do you have an agreement with the college to get data on student outcomes? Yes. And we do not have at this time a shared system. I would love to share SID information with the data pieces on campus. We're starting really small. We're using a math program with Pearson, and we're trying to figure out how we can document some of those data points using the tools the 2 systems have. And that's probably not a complete answer, but yeah, we're in the works of it, and I would invite a further conversation on that. Back to the compensation, it changed before I could read it.
Yeah, the question, Patty's clarifying, are you being compensated for meeting each week to coordinate your lessons?
So Sarah gets 1 hour. She uses her office hour. The read write staff uses their office hour. We don't meet for the full hour. We do a half an hour. And as far as my compensation, if I were a manager, I would ask that hour be tagged to the class time. So then if I had a 6-hour class, then I'd have a 6.5-hour class, which is technically probably 7 hours. So those are negotiations that you have with your manager. And with the faculty here, yeah, they use their office hour and they have been given some staff development time. I can't speak on that. I don't see their contracts, but at the end of the slides, which we're obviously going to fast forward to, Carrie would be a great person to talk to. Sarah would be a great person to talk to. Angie would be a great person to reach out to and see what those articulations are between ISD 709 and Lake Superior College. We do have paper contract that I'm sure Angie could, share out if that needed to be.
Okay, would you like me to move forward here, Jody?
Well, before we do, I just want to say at this point, being unified, like Carrie said, is crucial. Routines and expect changes. Okay, yeah, let's move forward. We're probably going to have to move quickly because I think we have 5 minutes. We can go through this. If you're here, yeah, 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Commonly asked questions. If you just want to take a second and see if any of these hit you in a different way and you'd like me to speak on them, I think we've covered most of these. And what's my wait time? The upfront design and prep time, bullet number 3. Yeah, progressive dinner here on campus. It started out with just a 2-hour, 2 times a week, which was 4 hours in the Learning Center, supporting reading skills. And someone asked for math, and I was like, yeah, let's do math. And then we just kept growing from there. So the upfront design prep time kind of happens as you go. And just to go back to that slide, you don't have to, but it did make mention of chapter 2 of the toolkit, where you can read some of those tips and recommendations as well. Okay, thanks, Astrid. iBest, there's the website on the bottom. If you want more information on models of teaching, we can go past that. Best practices, I think you've heard some today. Again, going back to your personalities and your relationships and what your campus has going on, what your region has going on. I know our Prep for Ts took off with Essentia Partnership here at Lake Superior College. So we have some gray areas that we stay away from as adult education, but there's some areas that we also slide right into. So know your area, know your community, know your campus needs, know your learners. Okay. I think we can go past these challenges because we've discussed some of them and have welcomed more in the chat. Your courses that are suited for collaboration, don't let a list stop you. We're reaching into the 5.5s. We're reaching into the FYEs, gateway courses, obviously prep courses. It's about pathways, right? And our first slide was meeting students where they're at. Our programming follows our learners and their needs. Okay. We have so many slides left. How deeply we're embedded, we've talked about the integrated model, so we can kind of go through this. Yeah. The toolkit, here's the site, and I'm talking even faster because there's 2 minutes left. Here's the site that you can actually get into the toolkit. I have a copy. It was published, you can see there, in 2021, and I bet if we were to make some edits, there'd be more stories from the field. Okay. There we go. Oh, if we could go back to that, thank you very much. Sarah's contact information is here. My contact information is there. Again, Terry, I listed as retired. When we have a new contact, I'll replace that. Carrie and Angie, any questions? We have 1 minute. Okay, well, I hope you absolutely enjoy the conversations. I'm going to be off to class, so I won't be joining you for conversations later today, but please reach out to me. I would very much enjoy expanding some of the conversations that were started today.